So, hello, and a warm welcome to the webinar, Unlock New Opportunities. Is mobile access the key to new business models? I'm Jochen Schurich, one of the co-founder of Tapkey, and I'm taking care of business development and finding and onboarding new partners. Today, I would like to talk with you about the value of the digital key, which role the digital key plays in new business models, and how it can help you to unlock new opportunities. I have invited two experts who have a lot of experience in this field, Lee Oddes and Manuel Finken. Many of you already know Lee. He's the influencer of the access control industry. He's a speaker and consultant, and I think we are all looking forward to hearing his insights. And Manuel has founded a company that leverages digital keys as a key technology to enable its business. I look forward to hearing from you about his experiences and perspectives. Before I hand over to Lee, I would like to point out that we have a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. You can always post questions in the chat and we will answer them later at the end of the webinar. But now, Lee, the stage is yours.
No, I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Like you said, my name is Lee Oddes with Access Control Executive Brief. I focus primarily on the access control marketplace, been within it, call it 15 years, but travel, meeting with a lot of companies to discuss basically this type of conversation, because as an industry, we are going through what you would call a digital transformation, if we were to take a look at it. The industry itself doesn't necessarily like to call it that, because we as an industry like to always discuss how it's sort of an iteration off of 30-year-old technology. But, you know, just like everything else in the world, there's a software at some point is eating it. And that's exactly what's happening within our space. And with that, though, we have to level set on some sort of assumptions that go along with the change that's happening in the market. And when you look at how mobile participates in that, it's in my opinion, it's like cloud, it's like AI. It's a piece of the overall transformation that's happening. And it's a great example of an area that is taking the industry from what has been a cottage industry and is moving it to more mainstream. So if we were to look at some of these assumptions, is it okay you can invite share? Oh, I can't actually. That's fine, I'll talk about it. So if we take a look at some of the assumptions that we have is, we talked about that digital transformation, but our industry will talk a lot about how it's an IT convergence that's happening. And in my opinion, what you're seeing, and I do believe mobile is a good sort of expression of this, is it's actually the introduction of enterprise software into our industry. So a lot of the norms and truths that are inside of enterprise software, what that means, are impacting our industry heavily. The other assumption that I like to talk about a lot is that cloud and even in mobile specifically, mobile's not a feature. It's about computing. You build the systems different than you would if it wasn't with mobile. Your expectations, especially as a consumer, change of how systems function. As an industry, legacy industry in the access control side, what we did was we added it to it. It brought all of the old truths along and iterated into what we think mobile would be. And that's why you see a lot of the conversations and people focused heavily on the idea of taking a card and putting it into the phone, which in my opinion is the lazy and most boring way of discussing the impacts of what mobile, when it comes to, if you were to look at it as mobile computing. If we were all to take sort of a pill and fall asleep and wake up, back where we are currently right now, and we were to introduce access control and smart locks and the rest of it, we wouldn't be like, oh, we need to add mobile to the legacy. No, we would build with it as a base of like cloud and mobile. That's why what's happening currently now is you're seeing a lot of companies come into the space that are external from the industry, and they are threatening the internal cottage industry of the old truths, I call them, that have been around forever, because inherently in their bones, how they build systems, mobile's just like, it's just a part of what you do, like with it. It's not this like they found gold. It's like, this is how we build products. So it's about cloud and mobile computing. It's not about iteration of it. The other thing is that the assumption is that the value proposition of our industry has changed, and it's more about the value beyond locking and unlocking and keeping bad people out. With one of the trends that has happened in the impacts in our industry about mobile is this has actually turned it into a value proposition that's about letting the right people in and creating an experience that goes beyond that locking and unlocking. Yes, the locking and unlocking and the security is a core part of what we do as an industry. And it's actually why the industry itself can command that space, because we've been delivering security and comfort for very long. It's not a gadget. It's still a life safety industry. It's still the expectation of the end users, the people that are buying the products, is that we are delivering life safety as well. But they want to see value beyond it. And a lot of it is done through the mobile phone itself. The other assumption is, if you look, Omdia says that the access control and smart lock industry globally, except for China, is a $10 billion market. I believe that's complete garbage, but when you have no data, you'll take the bad data. So let's just assume it's a $10 billion market. That's fine. Heavily hardware focused, heavily distribution focused. It's unimaginative. We did math and put an entire math problem together and came to see that the value creation beyond that locking and unlocking that we talk about, the impact of enterprise software is actually a $70 billion market. So when you look at the value creation that our industry from access control and smart locks, what it can create while people are utilizing phones and cards and everything, because I don't think they all go away. I think it's an and conversation, not an or. It just happens about the application of the use case. That value creation that we can have because people are interacting and expecting our systems to function differently is 70 billion. And that is the impacts of enterprise software. So when I look at the future of security and how it plays with mobile, it's 100% digital. We've been an analog industry, so this mobile is helping make it more digital. It's very customer centric. If you think about it, in the old access control and smart lock world, these cards were given and you were told, imagine this is a badge for work, or this happens to be the hotel I'm at now. When this is given to me, I'm told this is my identity, but we all know that this is not who you are. Like, you're not a piece of plastic, even if it has your picture on it. Now with mobile, right? And so as an industry too, we never knew who the end person was really that had this. There was no interaction. The customer basically was the administrator of all these systems. Now with mobile, what it's done is it's introduced a new stakeholder called the customer, the end user. And we have an interaction with them. There's an expectation of experience now that we haven't had to worry about. Actually, as an industry, as a security industry, our job was to put barriers up and to create inconvenience. Like, that was an actual feature of our industry. That now is a bug, frankly, in a lot of ways, because now the interaction is, if I can't get into my office, and now if you look at the impacts of like hybrid work, if I can't get into my office when I'm only coming there 3 times a day, it actually brings down engagement. So I'm expecting a very different experience. As industry, we have to understand them a lot better. And it is centered around security, like we said, on that side. So if I was to take a look at sort of the opportunities that I do see around mobile and the factors that are driving sort of the adoption of it, is you've got an entire industry that's right now jumped onto the concepts and ideas around it, but hasn't necessarily thought through the impacts deeply to what it can do. I know, like, you can in Tapkey, you all have, because again, I look at you all as the coming from that new, if you would, with not the legacy mindsets that threaten. In a lot of ways, the things that get in the way of the adoption of mobile into our industry more have nothing to do with the technology side of it. It actually has to do with the demographics and the incentives of our industry more than anything else. Like, our industry is relatively older, where there's less desire to take risks. And you may not think that mobile's a risk, But if I've been building a system, we looked at the history of electronic access control, and it started in 1970, is around there. There's an argument over who exactly did it and the rest of it. But it was predicated on a certain set of principles that have carried through from the past 30 years. And everything that's happening currently right now is challenging a lot of those. And there's a lot of companies, especially the legacy lock companies and legacy access control companies, that are having to make some hard decisions now of how they invest, going into an area they may not even understand and the rest of it. So the demographics of the people making those decisions at a lot of these companies get in the way. It's actually, when I take a look at it, the differences between like Europe and North America, I don't see it as much in the European marketplace. It seems to be there is a further along adoption and teaming and cooperation and an understanding. I call it self-awareness. A lot of these lock companies and access control companies recognize that they don't have the talent, skill sets, or understanding to do it. So there's a lot more partnering happening in Europe than we see in North America, where there's this belief that they have to do it themselves, or they're going to push it off as far as they have to because it challenges their income. The other one is the incentives. Our industry, again, like I said, is been based off of the concept and the idea that you sell older products where you can maximize the margin and profits that are there. And they've been allowed to do that because it's been an evolving industry of slow. So if you look at a lot of the locks and a lot of the software that's out in the marketplace, it's stuff that was built 10, 15, 30 years ago. The enterprise software industry comes in, and this isn't an industry that iterates and moves fast and changes and goes and selling the new and frankly, in my opinion, the sort of things that like open brings and the SaaS models where you're forced to have to continuously invest in bringing delight and making sure the customer's happy and new features in that's not been a practice within the industry. Mobile, your expectation, because of the habits of how it is when we work this, is that the best day of this product is tomorrow in a lot of ways, because it's constantly getting updates and more features and the rest of it. The best day of most legacy access control and smart locks that pre-mobile with card, the best day they had was the day it was installed. It degrades over time because adding functions and that to it are hard to do. So the expectation completely has changed. So the incentives are set up currently right now to adopt legacy and continue and get us and maximize profit. Whereas if our industry would change and even just introduce 20% risk, which is new, mobile, and the rest of it, I do believe that you would see an attitude change and a complete adoption that would elevate and deliver, in my opinion, better experiences and value creation. And customers are demanding it. So if I was to take a look at like where we're at right now in the adoption curve, my opinion is that we're at the early adopter sort of hype stage with big dreams and big moments and big momentum. With in aggregate, we're at early adoption on that side, but I don't know many people that would die on the hill that says this is not going to be the norm. And I do believe we're at a point where, I don't know, it's a case of when, not if, that the new that we're talking about now and all the value creation becomes a standard operating procedure of how we interact with buildings and spaces. All you have to do is take one trip. If you've been to Japan and you see how or New York City or other places in the world where you can tap and go, that experience is hard once you do it, where I tap to get on the train and then I tap at the vending machine. And then when I get to my hotel, I tap, and I go to the gym and I tap. That tapping to be able to have an interaction and an experience, once you do it, it's going to be hard to get people to go back to this concept and idea of interacting in different ways. All it takes is one time to see it. And what I've noticed as well is when it works across all demographics. Like my mom had no problem doing it. Hopefully this, we don't share this with her and she thinks I'm picking on her, but technology is not necessarily her strength. I always usually have to help her with this. The natural sort of experience and user experience of it was just easy. She got it on that side. And if you look back, like that came because she's been using it for pay for quite a while now. And if you look at where that started, there was a period there where when especially like Apple Pay it first came out, people were like, I'm not using it. There's not a lot of terminals that use it. Then all of a sudden the terminals got there and people started using it. And what do you know? It's like now if you don't have it at a place, you're like, man, this is like weird. I got to pull out a credit card. And then if they're like, we don't take credit card, you're like, wow, this is how the old days you were. I pull out some, cash in the rest. It's just funny how the human side changes over time to go do that. And if you look at the generational gaps and the changes that are happening with demographics globally, my kids, they're 10 and 12, they don't even know what a home key is at this point. They've never used one to get into our place. So the idea that they're going to just evolve to want to use cards and keys and not expect this to happen, good luck on doing that. When I think, and you can reel me in if I go too long. So just let me know. Give me a sign.
It's very interesting listening to you. And one very interesting thing is that you said it's not the question of if, it's a question of when.
Yes.
We're getting into the curve, when we are leaving the early adopter phase and come to more to that everyone is using it every day. And it's the same to my kids. Then I think when they are grown-ups and they see keys and say, I have heard about this.
Yeah. And that's why I think the hurdle, in my opinion, has a part to do from a technical standpoint, but if I had to assign a percentage of that, I call it 10%. I think a majority of this comes down to the human side, the desire, the openness to how to implement. By all means, there are technical things that get in the way, but I think it's more of sort of where we're currently at from the people side of wanting to go do that. But I think, like, if you're to look at sort of like the outlook of the future on this end, again, it's bright. This is a case of when, not if. And I believe the other difference here is that the rate of change of this versus other things is going to accelerate immensely, because a lot of the end customers, if you think about it, like the verticals that I believe are being impacted by mobile the most right now, are any of them that have to act and be more like hospitality. So whether it's commercial real estate, multifamily residential, the hospitality marketplace, the enterprise is becoming more, asking people to come back to the office and things like that. They're getting more into the hospitality, where it's about the experience and the interaction and other software tools. And at the center of it, of the interaction, would be access control, because you can order lattes and do whatever you want on it. Not everyone wants to do that through their application. And, if you use a tenant engagement or booking of a room or things that people, but everybody uses access control to get into the space that they're going to go use. So as an industry, we should command that space more than any other people, in my opinion. And it's ours to do if we want it on that side.
Yeah, that's cool. Great to hear. Before, thank you, Liv. It was very, very interesting. And before I hand over to Manuel, I would like to talk a little bit about Tapkey, the role of Tapkey in this space, and what Tapkey is doing. And I try to be a little as short as possible. I pin my video. So we heard that access is part of many businesses, and that's a fact. And we have a lot of industries. You named it: sharing economy, smart logistics, building management. I mean, there are so many use cases. We can think about it where when we do it with the mechanical key, these business models wouldn't work anymore. So think about your last time you rented an apartment through Airbnb, and you had a physical key handover, and you waited, and that's not a good user experience. And the same applies to smart logistics. Think about delivery on construction sites, for example, where you need where you want to avoid a physical key handover. You would just drop off your things, and the one who needs to pick it up has a digital key and can pick it up anytime he wants to. and also for building property management. And nowadays also tenant experience apps. There are a lot of tenant experience apps, and they need an everyday use case for the people using an app every day, and to raise the usage of the mobile app. And I just named here a few, but the list of use cases is endless. And all these use cases or these business cases have one thing in common, and it's the need for physical access for authorized persons. And what are the requirements for these business models? I mean, we heard a lot about it. It's convenience, it's increased security, it's automation. You need to integrate it into the business processes for rental and sharing services, to grant access and revoke access right in the booking process. Also remote management to reduce the need for on-site personnel. And a digital key has also to be very reliable. That's what we think in Tapkey. So it's very important that a digital key is also working in offline scenarios or in areas where you have weak or even no network connectivity. So if you get access, if you booked a car or a room or anything else, and you go to the garage, you expect that the key is working, that you can open the car and use it, and even if there is no network connectivity. And also the user experience. A digital key should be easy to use and increase the user acceptance. A user-friendly interface should be used, and you should ensure a brand experience when you have a branded app. And so the role of Tapkey in this field is that with Tapkey is an open platform connecting the hardware manufacturers and the integrators. And so Tapkey offers a full working access control solution for end user. But for integrators, we offer all necessary APIs and SDKs so they can seamlessly integrate the open functionalities seamlessly into their third-party solution. And so we call it the Tapkey Connect platform, and the Tapkey Connect platform provides the full technology stack to integrate this access as a feature into a vertical solution. We have web APIs, which connects the third-party backend system with the Tapkey Trust Service, and with a mobile SDK to integrate it into mobile apps. And this is a very powerful set of features. It encapsulates the full complexity of mobile access and helps the integrator to focus on the solution and to focus on the user experience. And yeah, it's used in many verticals, and our sweet spot is giving ad hoc access. And the Tapkey Connect platform works with every Tapkey compatible lock from various manufacturers. And we see this as also as a network effect, which helps hardware manufacturers and solution providers. And yeah, we have a ready-to-use service. We have great documentation and samples, and this should help our partners to reduce development time and also, of course, costs. And this shortens time to market. Here you see some links. We think this is important. So it's a Tapkey portal. We have an integrator portal. And also on our developer side, you find a lot of information necessary for developers to take a look at our APIs and on the documentation. And if you subscribe to our Tapkey newsletter, you won't miss any news. So now you have heard a little bit about Tapkey and how we think what's necessary to provide the digital key for integrators. And Manuel has already integrated Tapkey into his service, and I think he can give us insights about his experience and also talk a little bit about his challenges.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for the introduction, Jochen, and Lee, thanks for your background information. I can fully underline what Lee basically mentioned already. And this is the industry is in change. And what we developed is a solution for the mobility and sharing or share mobility space, where we concentrate now on trailer sharing. Why is it that? It's a simple thing, and that is how the idea of Trailondo, which was born last year on the Web Summit on Lisbon, basically came up. I was sitting in the garden with my wife on a Saturday evening, and she told me, dear, I mean, you could cut the hedge. And I was like, come on, it's like 8. Yeah, but you should do it. And the issue is, if your wife is telling you, you have to cut the hedge, you have to do it now, right? So then you need a trailer. Where you can get it from? Nowhere, because all the businesses have been closed. On the other side, the problem is that specifically for trailer rental, you don't have one partner in mind where you can go to. At least in Germany or in Europe, there is not one single partner, one single brand which you relate to trailer rental. So that is where the idea of Trailondo was born. There have been some other things like you don't have an automatized document management process, you don't have an automatized travel license check, and so forth and so on. So means we have been faced with the issue that the entire process was basically not really simple, was not let's say how users would experience today. By the way, Jochen, I have some slides. I don't know if you can enable me. That would be great. Then I can show something.
Sure. You should be the host now and can share your screen. Is this right?
Here we go. That should work. So let me swap into my presentation. Yes. So, and that's where we founded IQ Next, which is the owner of the brand Trailondo. So what we do is we make trailers and light commercial vehicles available 24/7 and effortlessly unlocked. And that was a challenge because during the seeking of a really trusted partner, we found many companies who could somehow deliver a solution, but none of them, specifically talking about access, was able to provide us something which basically fit our requirements. Then we had the first talks with Tapkey, and we actually found out that that solution seems to be a really seamless one. So we did some testing, and we figured out that it's easy to integrate. Just to spend some words about the trailer market, because this is actually a huge one. It's something which you will not find into official figures in the market, because these figures are somehow hidden in that huge mobility space. But trailer rental as such is a billion transaction business per year. Just talking about Europe, the US, and Australia, where we have more than 100 million registered trailers, and most of them are 100% offline. So it means they are not connected, which is a challenge as well. The problem is, if you take a look at the critical aspects, as I mentioned, vehicle access is an issue, availability is an issue, quality is an issue, because that hardly differs. Trailers are not available when you need them. The booking process is complicated and time consuming. User experience is actually really bad. And the other thing, which is more coming into play now, is that the generation X and Z, and that's what Lee already mentioned, they simply expect that you can book such a service via smartphone. And nowadays, you simply are not able to do that because you have to fill out some paper on the spot. You have to do things you don't like to do. And at the very end of the day, you wait 30 to 45 minutes to get your trailer. So it means that user experience is really bad. So the solution was to build a marketplace, a mobility marketplace for enterprise customers and peer-to-peer customers, where we can share the trailers of our customers on our platform, make them available 24/7. That basically boosts revenues, because we could see that connected trailers are 60% more often booked. It speeds up the process, as I said, because it simplifies it. And at the very end of the day, also it saves money for the owner, because you don't need an interaction with the owner anymore. You don't have a physical key access. It's completely automatized. So that's a huge advantage for our customers. The product as such is called what we call Scan, Book, and Go. It's pretty much working like in the mobility industry. So means it's actually kind of a car sharing platform, which is concentrating on trailer and LCV sharing. So you just install the app. Then if you are staying in front of the car or vehicle, you just scan the QR code. You make an easy social network login via Google, Apple, Facebook, whatever. You do your driver license check, which is fully automatized, working with an artificial intelligence, which takes you less than 1 second. And then you can open the log after you booked. That's pretty much it. So the process, if we take a look into the time, if you are an incumbent customer, that process takes you less than 20 seconds. If you are a new customer, it's usually less than 2 minutes, and then you are there. And that's a huge advantage and USP against the analog business. So beside of that, we for sure have an intuitive fleet management portal where we can manage all our devices and the devices or the vehicles of our customers with real-time tracking, marketing data, vehicle monitoring via 5G. By the way, we are the first to connect the worldwide trailer using 4G and 5G technology. It's an all self-administration, and for sure it's seamless access everywhere. That's the idea behind. Now, just to show you how it actually looks. So we made that small little trailer over here. That's basically our first test trailer which we ever bought. You can see the lady coming out. You can see the blinking padlock, and you just go to there and to scan the QR and you open it up. By the way, you can for sure seek for the vehicles in your direct surrounding, or you go directly to the trailer which you would like to book. So you choose your trailer and your driver license, make some pictures, the AI will analyze it, and then you can go. That's pretty much it. So it means we are saving a lot of time for our customers, and even more time when we focus on our enterprise customers, because they are the ones who are mostly participating of that solution. Because actually they can open up now a rental business without having any staff. So the challenges and requirements we had, and that's an interesting point basically, was, as I already mentioned, to find an access provider who can provide us the technology without making a deep dive into the Bluetooth stuff, because we are working with Bluetooth or optionally with NFC technology. And the issue is that Bluetooth stacks hardly differ. And for sure, there would have been the possibility to collaborate with somebody in Far East. But the issue is that we have been seeking for somebody who was at the ground over here in Germany or close to Germany, means Austria. And that basically simplifies many things. On the other hand, for sure, we could use the SDK, which really made it easy to integrate the entire Tapkey solution within some weeks. So the integration of the SDK until we got it working took us less than 4 weeks of implementation, which was not really much. On the other side, we have for sure the problem of reliability under harsh conditions, because these logs, as you can imagine, are usually staying outside somewhere. So just to give the example of Germany or Austria, where temperatures in winter still can fall down to -20 degrees, or in summer can go up to, in maximum, even 40 degrees. You have a wide range of temperature where you need something which is really reliable. On the other hand, we didn't want to exchange batteries constantly. So the good thing about the Tapkey solution in that case is that the batteries basically do survive longer than the trailer is in business. So it means trailer rental is something where you buy a trailer and you lease it for 5 to 6 years. Just keeping in mind that we may rent out trailers on a daily or a second daily basis. This log will definitely survive the trailer. On the other hand, for sure, we have to challenge the trailers are stupid. All the trailer OEMs, they did never concentrate on telematics. So we had to put our own telematics solution on it. So we developed a solution which gives us all the transparency we need, measuring constantly tire pressure, overloading scenarios, driver behavior, speed, distances, operational hours, and all that kind of stuff, which really gives us the information we need to plan. Because trailer rental business right now is something which is reactive. So they don't have predictive maintenance. They just react if something fails, but not before, which is a problem. On the other hand, for sure, it was the solution which has to be defined and be scalable, because there are some other providers already on the market. They have kind of not directly comparable mobility marketplaces, but the issue they have is they cannot scale that fast because they are using docking stations which bind the vehicle to a certain spot. on the other hand, these docking stations are really cost intense. And we could avoid that because we have now completely autark working and flexible working vehicles, which have a solar panel on the roof, and they maintain themselves basically with energy. So they will provide themselves with energy. That's not a problem anymore. And we can place them even in free floating scenarios. And for sure, the combination of radio access and physical access was one of the biggest challenges, because as I said, telemetry solutions for trailers have not been existable at that time. And the physical access was a problem because none of the aforementioned providers except Tapkey basically fit our requirements. So yeah, if you would like to experience more about us, you can see the links over here, iconx.com, chelondo.com. We also have a new solution which we call enterprise.chelondo.com, which is an enterprise solution for car rental, where you can actually open up your business within a week and get your own trailers so that you can let them work and earn money for you. So that's actually the solution. And yeah, if you have some questions, then just go ahead.
So, thank you, Manuel. It was also very interesting learning about your solution and about your experience integrating Tapkey. So it was pretty fast. Got it working in 4 weeks. Sounds really
not testing, but working.
Yeah, testing and working. And yeah, probably Lee, do you have some questions or any other topics you want to bring on the table? I've seen that you already answered some questions in the Q&A sections.
Yes, I did get into, if you want me to answer it. So one of the questions that was asked was, what was the impact that I believe AI will have on the access control industry? And I broke it down into two sections. There's the short-term impacts, and then there's the long-term impacts. On the short-term impacts, I believe AI, which is connected to mobile, because I believe there's the interaction side, but on the short-term side, what we're seeing currently right now is companies come in that put software layers that sit on top of legacy systems to deliver insights and automation from data. There's companies like Hackamo, for instance, that's in the marketplace doing that with like Linnell S2 Systems and Genetec and et cetera. And what they're basically doing on that end is a lot of these systems have flat files that come out. Now you want to have interaction and better insights and automation. So they do that. That's the immediate impact. I'm also seeing companies that are implementing sort of natural language processing into their systems when it comes to configuration or insights. Also, if I want to have a conversation with my system, for instance, and then you can then also it'll say things like, do you want me to turn that off? Like that, where historically before our systems where you set them, reports come out, then you have somebody going back in there that knows how to configure the systems and knows where the buttons are to press. Now with this, they just sort of naturally do it through conversation. We're starting to see that roll out. In the long term, I believe, and this is where it gets fun with mobile, and the definition of mobile going just, beyond just the phones, for instance. Mobile could be wearables that we'll start to see, and maybe it'll be thread in your clothes, which I know has been done before. You're seeing movement with rings and watches and that. But this concept and idea of our systems where right now they're somewhat analog, and I set up the system, I give somebody a card. As long as they walk up and they use the card during the calendar that they're allowed to use it, if they have access on the card, it will unlock or that. We don't really know who the person is theoretically, and it's somewhat very straightforward. I believe that we will start to see systems that, and a lot of it will become because of mobile, is that this has my real ID, if you would, on it. It is me. I can authenticate that. I walk up to spaces and I express who I am to them. And the systems on the other end, either at the edge or a combination of the edge and the cloud, will utilize AI and cloud computing and all the hot button terms we want to use currently right now. It will take that information that I've expressed to it. It will then look at the policy, the situation, the level of authentication, and it will make a determination if I should be allowed in and to what level degree, and that interaction experience will start. Completely flip on how these systems work. And I believe that's when we start to see sort of a natural flow of how we interact with spaces, which is one that is me actually showing up to those places. And in a lot of ways, the places then start to get a voice in a like weird, without getting too weird about it. But I think about this a lot as sort of like right now, every time you walk into a place, even if you're supposed to be there, it's like the first time you've ever been there. Like the system acts like that. And I do believe that we will start to build relationship with spaces that will start to know who you are. We saw a little bit of it in college universities where teachers now log in to a computer, or they tap into a computer and it brings their files and their things with them. And it's sort of like it knows the HVAC should be at 71, and it knows that the lights should be dimmed at 25%. And it starts to build a relationship with them that's very different. Still very sort of analog, switch driven. This being more fluid. I mean, I start to think about like the hotels. Human beings are habitual. And I believe the systems will become to understand our habits, and we'll be able to respond. But it's all going to start by me expressing who I am to those spaces. And AI, mobile, and all this new technology we're talking about are going to make that happen. Yeah,
when you don't see this every system separate, when they are more connected, more integrated together, then they can interact and provide a better user experience. And when sensors, etc., use the data that you are approaching your home, and then can of course it's like a predictive behavior, or maybe an AI can see that there is something bad happens, and then probably take actions.
Anomaly detection is something that the systems will start to do and understand.
And I think that Manuel can use this, or probably think about this already in his use case, like try to find an unusual behavior where someone is probably wants to steal the trailer, or want to use it in a way that it's not meant to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we already do things like driving behavior analysis, and we do blacklisting, because what we figured out is, but that has nothing to do with access so far, is that people tend to use trailers as they shouldn't. Means they are speeding, they are overloading them, and that's a killer, because these can significantly damage the vehicles, so that they have to be exchanged. On the other side, the access is something which is key for us, even though when it's just like a part of our solution, but it's most probably the most crucial one, because without having the access and without having the possibility to integrate afterwards some AI on it, it will not work in the future anymore, because people expect the access to be managed actively and seamlessly. They don't want to be involved in that process. It just has to work. And talking about AI, so we have another plan, which is not realized yet, but that's, let's say, really early stage. But what we are going to do is we most probably will implement the Tapkey solution into our trackers, so that these trackers, which already have a Bluetooth interface, can then access the lock and unlock the lock without having even a customer interaction. So it means customers have an NFC, a capable smartphone, and they just come into the surrounding of the trailer. And the trailer can see, okay, or the lock can see, hey, that guy is actually has granted access, and the lock opens up. So these things we have already in mind. And then for sure, if you combine it with AI, there are so many opportunities. This is actually a game changer, specifically talking about access, that's for sure.
Okay, yeah, interesting. There is another question from Bodo about, can you unlock car doors? Yes, we have a partner. It's called Witte Automotive, and they developed a box, a car box, a key box where you put the car key inside, and there are mechanical fingers inside of the box, and they can press the buttons on the key. Yeah.
I have it here. Oh, sorry, it's like blinded out, but that's actually how it works. You put the key here in, and you close it, and then the sensors are putting the buttons on the hardware. That's just one possibility to open up cars in an easy way. If you do that, it's really just like a 15-minute exercise to connect the car. That's as easy as that.
Yeah, so infleeting and defleeting should be very easy. You do not need to drill holes and put cables and places in the car where you don't want to have them. You just put this box into the car, put the car key inside of the box, and the car is shareable. And I think on the European streets, most of the cars today can be enabled by using this box.
Yeah.
Um,
By the way, what we also do with that, we are right now developing our own 3D printing programs. The funny thing is, if you take a look into these boxes, they have an inlay, which is customizable. And we take these inlays, and we print them ourselves with the 3D printer. And then you can put in basically every physical key. So it's really easy and straightforward, and you can connect at least 90% of the common manufacturers, as long as it is not a BYD or something else, because it may not work with Chinese cars, but most of the Western car manufacturers do actually, or are compatible with that box. So yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, opening and closing car doors is also a great use case for IQ Next. And also, Bodo, yes, I think Manuel will contact you, and you left your contact details. Some more questions from the audience, probably, or do we have someone in the audience who wants to ask a question to Manuel or Lee? Anyone? So I think, or Lee, Manuel, do you want to say, add something? Otherwise, I would say thank you, and
thank you very much for the time to be here and to showcase our stuff.
I appreciate the opportunity.
And if someone wants to get in touch with me or with us, send an email. Here also you see the contact details from myself. And if you have questions, I can also forward them to Lee or Manuel. It's absolutely no problem. So thank you very much. It was a great having you here in this webinar, and hopefully see you soon.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.